Well, hello, I'm Doug Apple, back with another special interview for you today here on Wave 94, the Christmas season, the season of giving, right? And yet Americans seem to be giving less than ever. I'm looking at a report from the National Council of Nonprofits, and it says here that in the last 20 years or so, this is their quote, the number of people giving back to their communities has plummeted. Well, I've got Mike Sharman on the phone line with us. He's the legal counsel for Share Healthcare, and we'll talk about Share Healthcare a little bit later. But what about this charitable giving? You've been hearing the ads from Share Healthcare here on Wave 94 as they bought a little airtime. But Mike, we're talking about society and communities, and I know especially people in churches and nonprofit organizations, whether they're a Christian or not, are very interested in what is going on with charitable giving, especially with it in this word of this article, plummeted since 2002. Why is this important? Why does this matter? And what can be done about it? What are your thoughts about it? I'll kick it to you, Mike Sharman.
It is a big question because it affects lots of different type of charities. But we're here between that in-between period, the interregnum period between Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's interesting to me, thinking seasonally, that Thanksgiving precedes Christmas. We need to be thankful before we're getting our gifts, and we also need to be thankful before we really consider what gifts are we giving. Here we are in America. The people who are listening have a radio, they have streaming, they have electricity, they have someplace out of fierce extreme weather to listen to this. Just that in itself is a magnificent thing to be thankful for that much of the world can't be thankful for. They don't have it. They don't have the opportunity. It just isn't there for them. And so when charities have a decrease in their receipt, which means we have not given enough, what that really is reflective of, we can't be thankful enough because we haven't given. Now, I understand that one of the big problems that people have now in giving is the fact that inflation has eaten up their disposable income. Mm-hmm. So they have to pay more for their own bread and butter. They have to pay more for their own mortgage, their own car loans, et cetera. We mentioned that one article from the nonprofit organization, but Forbes has another one that says that when you adjust for inflation, giving is down 10.5% just in the past year.
Past year?
Yes, just in the past year. It declined $499.3 billion, says Forbes. That is an enormous amount.
That is.
We tend to think of charity as what we can see. The food banks that we see, things of that nature. The charities in our town. But think beyond where we are. Think of charity being a plane flying into a drought-ridden desert area in Africa where extraordinarily thin people, starving people, have walked miles to get to where that plane is landing to get a bag of grain to take back to their village and share. And when you get down to those type of levels, 10.5% decrease in charitable giving is enormous. How many lives literally are lost because that 10.5 is not there? How many more lives could be gained if it is? So how does that tie into Share Healthcare? Well, the average of health insurance costs for a family of four right now is over $2,000. Just last year it was $1,875 per month. Now it's over $2,000. Well, Share Healthcare, our monthly sharing amount for a family of four is $349. The difference between $349 and the $2,000 allows that family that has had a lot of its spendable income eroded because of inflation. Well, all of a sudden you gained it back. And you can be thankful for the fact of what there is. There's this 501c3 Christian vehicle known as Share Healthcare that can help you manage your own healthcare expenses and share with others, et cetera. But then it gives you that large expanse in between the 349 and the 2000 to give. That's money that wasn't there before within your budget to give, and now it is. That's an enormous resource that can be tapped within the body of Christ. It's just there for the asking.
So if people are interested in share healthcare, I mean, that you might be asking them to make a large change in their life from whatever they're currently doing for health insurance. If they have health insurance, making the change to share healthcare, what would that involve?
Well, it involved a mental shift, for one thing. So with health insurance, you have a contract. They're obligated to do what the contract says. You're obligated to do on what your part of the contract says. And it's a contract. With share healthcare, you're part of a charity. It's a 501c3 charitable organization that its mission is to share the medically necessary medical expenses of the Christian members, because you do need to be a Christian to be part of share healthcare. It's living out lots of different biblical admonitions, but probably the verse that most succinctly puts what we're doing is Hebrews 13:16. But do not forget to do good and to share, for which such sacrifices God is well pleased. So that's what we're doing, and it's an organized method of sharing. I mentioned the $349 for a family of four, but it's $149 for a single, $249 for a couple. Everybody that is a part of it gets their own individual bank account at the same bank, so that there's this algorithm that allows the sharing to flow appropriately from which bank account it needs to, from the people who are not sharing that month to the ones that need the shares. And then a check goes out in that person's name from the one who has the medically necessary medical expense. It goes out from their bank account to their healthcare provider in a check in their own name. So it's organized, it's orderly, but it is charitable. And so you have to have that mental shift from, I deserve this, I paid for this insurance, they owe me because it is a true, appropriate entitlement. You have a contract. They owe you what they promised. Here, this is everybody is giving. It is very other-focused. Now, it works. That's great. But it works because the body of Christ wants it to.
Mm-hmm.
And they're praying for one another, caring for one another, and sharing one another's burden. I mean, it doesn't get any much more basic community Christian than that. How do we live as a community of Christians? Well, this is one way.
Yeah. I mean, you talked about it being a change of mindset. And I was thinking about, you talked about, the plane flying into Africa with food or whatever. And I think a lot of people have the mindset of, well, the government will take care of that. And they have the mindset when it comes to healthcare, too, these days. A lot of people do. The government should take care of it. What do you think about that?
Well, one can just look at the chart of the expense of healthcare itself and the expense of health insurance since we began having our largest government intrusion into healthcare, which was the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. Well, since that occurred, the costs of healthcare have soared, and so have the cost of health insurance. So that's a massive problem. Then you have the government dictating to hospitals and insurers and healthcare plans what they have to do, dictating to states what they have to do. And it just complicates things. I mean, market really does work well if you have true market factors in there. And one disruption to market is the oligarchies that there are in hospital systems, and also the oligarchies that there are in insurance. I've mentioned it a number of times before, big is bad, go small. And yet when we have a federal government dictating to everybody in the healthcare system, from the consumer to the provider, what they have to do, that just distorts things, and it doesn't allow for innovation, doesn't allow as much for competition, and prices go up and access is decreased. We're taping this during open enrollment. Well, open enrollment is a really great example of how competition and access have been decreased by government intervention. The government dictates that there's only these months from November 1 to January 15 that somebody can change their health insurance or get a new one. Well, How does that make any sense? It reduces access, cuts off 9 months of the year, and it reduces competition, because if you don't like your health insurance in July and you want to switch to another health insurance, you're stuck. You can't do it. Now, Share Healthcare is specifically exempt as a healthcare sharing ministry that meets the definition within the Affordable Care Act of a healthcare sharing ministry. It is specifically exempt from the Affordable Care Act, which means it's open for enrollment all year long. We aren't subject to the dictates of that. And remember the difference in our pricing. $349 for a family of 4 versus over $2,000. Well, why is that? Well, one, we aren't subject to all that government regulation. We aren't subject to having to follow the dictates of what the government says. But also because Christians just tend to have less medical problems than the surrounding culture. Now, I don't want to overstate that. I mean, the rain falls on the just and the unjust. Every Christian is going to eventually die, either by external destruction, like an accident or something of that nature, or internal disease. I mean, it's going to happen to all of us one way or another. But because we are trying to, as Christians, trying to respect our bodies as temple, we tend to be a bit better in our diet. With Share Healthcare, we're a no tobacco organization. We're a only alcohol in very moderate circumstances, 2 to 3 drinks per week, etc. Our pricing reflects the freedom that it has: medical freedom, financial freedom, and religious freedom. Those are big things that help a great deal. It itself is a charity. As I mentioned, it's a 501c3. Within that 149, 249, 349, $10 from each one of the memberships per month goes to help the Soweto Academy in Kenya, Africa. Now, the Soweto Academy is at the largest slum in all of Africa, the Kibera slum. And it's a school, kindergarten to a 12th grade school, and a clinic, and a water source it's the water source for pretty much the whoever can get there and where the distribution of the water is, etc. But it has about 500 children that actually attend school there every day. The high school is a residential high school for girls because girls are much more vulnerable. And the feeding is for at least 800 children per day. It's making a life-changing, not just life-saving for the food, but life-changing because of the education, the Christian training, et cetera, that's going on there. And just with our small organization, Share Healthcare, small organization, and just that small amount, $10 per month from each one of the members, we're already supporting more than half of the Soweto Academy's entire budget. When we think of others as one of our sole focuses in each one of our decisions, wonderful things occur.
Sure do. Well, we're talking with Mike Sharman, and if you're ready for that change of mindset or something different, if you're ready to save money on your overall healthcare plan, then maybe you should check out Share Healthcare for you and your family. ShareHealthcare.com is their website, or you can call them toll-free, 1-844-SHARE-HC. That's Mike Sharman for Share Healthcare, and for Wave 94, I'm Doug Apple.